Crime syndicates thrive on a country where government itself is questionable on issues of corruption. Coming up. General Dumisani Khumalo drops in yet another character on the scene by the name of Stuart James Scharnick, who has been very close or a close accomplice of General Shadrack Sibiya, to a point where even during the time when Shadrack Sibiya was testifying, the Shadrack James guy was spotted sitting right behind General Shadrack Sibiya. Of course, Dumisani Khumalo introduces this character as somebody who is a Shadrack Sibiya's protector, or could be bodyguard, or whichever way, but a protector nevertheless. And, of course, this very same guy has been spotted driving a white 4x4 Toyota side by side with a white BMW that I've mentioned on my previous video. Let's not waste any time, but let's listen to General Dumisani Khumalo here introducing this new character who is a close accomplice with Shadrack Sibiya. Ushubile.
First of all, can you confirm that this is Mr. Sibiya's house?
Yes, Commissioners, we can confirm that it is Lieutenant General Sibiya's gate to the house, to the premises.
Okay. And there are three individuals in the video. Can you describe, do you know who they are, and can you tell the Commission, starting with the figure in the black pants?
The figure in black pants on the right, it is the Deputy National Commissioner, Lieutenant General Sibiya, and then the figure following him on a black shirt poses like a close protector that we have not fully identified, the same as the other gentleman then that is remaining behind.
Unless there's anything else you want to say on this slide, General, no? Okay, so then can we turn to CJC 32, page 16. And can you describe what we see in that picture?
On the picture is the day the Deputy National Commissioner was appearing in the ad hoc committee with the same gentleman, owner of the car, acting like his close protector in the highest offices of government for 2 days. We then captured that so as then we can finalize our link and relationship.
Just look at the kind of criminality that this Schanick guy has been involved with. Hijacking all the way. So the big question is, why would Shadrack Sibiya find himself associated with characters like Schanick? Just look at this. The total of 34 cases. 18 found guilty, 11 withdrawn, and of course 5 found not guilty. So the Shadrack James guy has since came out, trying by all means to clear his name. But by the look of things, the more he tries to clear his name, the more entangled he becomes in all this. The more he implicates himself, and the more he shows which side he's in clearly. Listen to him here. It's a little bit lengthy, but listen nevertheless.
Following that picture, we had bold text in red showing that you had multiple convictions against your name in that of carjacking, theft, and so forth. Talk to me about your initial reaction when you saw your name and your face beaming across social media and across media outlets across the country this afternoon. What was your initial reaction?
Well, look, I was kind of surprised when I saw it happening because I know General Khumalo very well. And I didn't understand why he didn't explain to the Madlanga Commission that he knows me as well. So when he came out painting me with the paintbrush that he did, it surprised me, particularly about the convictions, which I'm not disputing, but I'm disputing the factual basis in which he presented it. So just to clarify about the convictions that he spoke about, the 18 convictions is part of one case. I have one conviction pertaining to those cases, and those cases are from 2011 and 2012. I was given a suspended sentence and a fine to pay. I've served the suspended sentence and I've paid the fine. So in our South African constitution, I'm a free man. I have no other cases that are pending against me. I'm not involved in crime syndicates. And furthermore, General Khumalo knows that. So the fact that he's chosen to mislead the Madlanga Commission leads me to believe one of two things. He's either trying to run a narrative or he's desperate because everything that they've been painting previously is not tying up.
Let's talk to those 18 convictions because you've briefly explained and provided some context around them. It's related to one case that dates back to 2011 and 2012. Can you provide some clarity around that? Because I think for the layman, having 18 convictions that pertain to one case, it doesn't really make that much sense. Can you expand a little bit about what those convictions relate to?
So in the time period, the 2010-2011 period, myself and a number of business people were involved in buying and selling vehicles. However, we hadn't done the due diligence in checking on how the vehicles were acquired and the system used to register them on e-Natus. A whole host of police officers were arrested. There was a whole host of businessmen that were arrested, and some of us took plea and sentencing agreements to nip it in the bud and close the chapter. It was a lack of oversight on our side. We should have done our due diligence, but there were a number of people at the same time period caught with the same scam. However, the charges did, in the competent verdict, reflect theft. Some of them were linked to carjacking, but that itself didn't necessarily mean that we were hijacking cars the way in which General Khumalo tried to portray it today, that every month we were stealing cars or hijacking cars. I'm sure, as you can see, I'm very easy to recognize, and it doesn't really make much sense what he's talking about. But obviously, it's the narrative that he was trying to drive home today.
I want to talk a little bit about the personal relationships that you claim to have with General Dumisani Khumalo, because you say that you know him, he knows you well, and he should have spoken to you about this prior to dropping your name at the commission. But firstly, I want to talk a little bit more about these cases and where they were committed, because I believe most of the cases were in KZN, but there's also another case pertaining to the Northwest. Can you clarify that for us?
Okay, so the KZN cases are the bulk of the 18 that he spoke about in terms of the convictions, which all fall under one operation, which was basically one case. It's one sentencing agreement with 18 charges. It's not 18 different cases that were run simultaneously in 18 different courts throughout the country. It was centralized, it's one issue with one sentence. What he alluded to the public is that in the Northwest, the case was subsequently withdrawn, and we have no charges in the Northwest, nor was I convicted of anything in the Northwest.
Let's talk about your relationship before I come to the relationship that you have with Shadrack Sibiya, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya. But I think more to the point right now that what you've spoken about is what's your relationship with Dumisani Khumalo? So
it's actually strange that it slipped his mind to explain how he knows me. I was introduced to General Khumalo, Dumisani Khumalo, in Mr. Shadrack Sibiya's office, working on an issue pertaining to a mass murder that had happened in the area where I'm from. And in that instance, I had worked with him a lot. I know a number of his members that are operational based in KZN. I know them by name, surname, and cell phone number, like I know him. We've met regularly at his office, and I have all my cell phone records to prove that. So Dumisani Khumalo did not recognize me from facial recognition investigations that he's done. He knows exactly who I am, and I've spoken to him many a times on the phone and in person and in his office.
So let's talk to those cases that you were meeting with both General Khumalo and Sibiya in Lieutenant General Sibiya's office at the time. Where and what do those cases pertain to? Because you say they relate to a place where you're from.
So I'm from an area called Richards Bay, northern KZN, and we had a spate of murders in a specific time period. And the murders were aimed at business people through the business forums, and it was linked as well to some of the killings that the PKTT eventually started investigating. And when General Khumalo saw me at the ad hoc committee in Parliament, I'm sure it sent shockwaves down his spine. Hence, he tried to discredit me before I could actually unpackage the evidence that we have pertaining to some of the killings under his watch with the PKTT.
Stuart, could you expand a little bit on the cases in Richards Bay? Because I'm familiar with the area and the region itself, and I know that in past testimony, Richards Bay has come up in the Madlanga Commission, and I think it also took a lot of people back because there were allegations that the presidency was involved with instances or case where Richards Bay Minerals had units deployed to safeguard that specific company. Is anything you're referring to got to do with that?
So the testimony from Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi was trying to portray that the killings were taking place within the mine itself, which is not true. The majority of the killings in Richards Bay were happening within the town, and no arrests were being made by local SAPS police officers, to a point where I think that police station is sitting with about 150 cold cases, if I'm not mistaken. We had no other alternate but to engage with national SAPS to get task teams to come in and assist us. And that's where our paths crossed, particularly with Dumisani Khumalo, the PKTT, with Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that was making the complaint about, and the national task teams that had come in to assist the community. Because a series of the murders were families. There was a triple murder where a family was executed. 2 weeks later, another 2 people were shot and killed in the suburbs of Richards Bay. And nothing was done about it from the local SAPS police station. Hence, we then went to national. I was one of the people that had engaged with then General Shadrack Sibiya, who assisted by getting a task force from national to come and intervene with the killings that were taking place in our area.
So you paint this picture that you've essentially, and you know all of these top cops, and that of Shadrack Sibiya, Dumisani Khumalo. You've had engagements with Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi as well previously.
No, I haven't.
You haven't.
I've spoken to General Fani Masimula on more than one occasion. I've spoken to Dumisani Khumalo, Lieutenant General, Crime Intelligence, and Shadrack Sibiya. And out of the 3 generals that I'd spoken to, the person who seemed to get the most done in terms of the arrests, in terms of the deployments, in terms of the disruptives, was Shadrack Sibiya, way more than the province or the local SAPS, including Crime Intelligence.
So then I think that the next question would obviously be is, what's sort of your relationship with Shadrack Sibiya? Because General Khumalo is essentially alleging that you are his close protector, bodyguard, essentially to Shadrack Sibiya. And in some instances, I think when you appeared before the ad hoc committee in Parliament, when you were sitting behind General Sibiya, he alleged that you were impersonating a cop, if I've got that correct. What's your response to those allegations?
Well, those are blatant lies. As he rightfully said, there's accreditation for you to go into Parliament. And on my accreditation, it was written the legal team, as I have in-depth knowledge of some of the evidence that's going to be unpacked in the ad hoc committee as well as the Madlanga Commission. Now, General Khumalo knows that. He also knows my proximity with Deputy National Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya, especially because the majority of the arrests that were initiated in our area was due to Shadrack Sibiya's intervention with the local business people in the area, and it went over and above what General Khumalo and Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi were doing with the PKTT. To put it bluntly, National came in and arrested more killers, more murderers than the PKTT did in our area. And that's a static fact. That's a statistician's fact.
What's your relationship with Shadrack Sibiya? Because from what Khumalo was trying to paint, or what General Khumalo was trying to paint, is that you're his bodyguard. What's your direct response to those allegations?
Well, he's simply misleading the commission. I've never been his bodyguard. I'm not a bodyguard. I'm not in the security industry. And I simply know Shadrack Sibiya from the cases that he assisted, particularly in our area. And every time we call him, he's always open and available to assist us. Wherever we needed his assistance, he's always assisted us. So when I saw that they had taken his close protectors away and they had taken the vehicles away from him, I then availed one of my vehicles, which is the Toyota Hilux that you saw, which is B6. That means it's bulletproof to semi-automatic carbine rounds, meaning it can withstand bullets from an AK-47. And I'm the person who then borrowed him that vehicle to travel around while he was trying to source his transport to get more protectors, which was declined by the National General Any.
So in that footage, or those stills that we were shown at the Madlanga Commission today, where we had basically footage from across the city of Joburg capturing both your Toyota Hilux, but then also a state white BMW following close behind. Was that you driving the vehicle, the Hilux, or was that General Sibiya driving the vehicle?
It was General Sibiya driving the vehicle from what I saw on the evidence being presented. I'm not sure myself. I wasn't in the vehicle. Once I handed over the keys for him to utilize the vehicle, he is free to do what he wanted to do with the vehicle to ensure that his life and his family's lives are protected.
So how long did General Sibiya have this vehicle in his possession? Does he still have it in his possession? Have you still loaned it to him and is he still using it?
He's still utilizing the vehicle. He was trying to arrange a secondary vehicle for himself with bulletproof, because we know the modus operandi of the people that we're dealing with. And a number of people have been assassinated, and assassination links to them. So I advised him to utilize a bulletproof vehicle until he can get himself another bulletproof vehicle and a backup vehicle.
What do you know about the white BMW? Because we saw CCTV footage today of this specific vehicle with a certain Sergeant F.E. Nkosi that had arrived at the home of, I don't know if we should refer to him as Santon businessman. He was Santon businessman previously, but now he can be referred to as a murder accused, Katiso Keti Molefi, in Sandhurst. We saw Sergeant Nkosi arriving in this white BMW state vehicle and then making off with this white paper bag, which we don't know what was contained in the paper bag. But that visit lasted almost 15 minutes, if anything. And we see the same vehicle following your vehicle, your Toyota Hilux, which General Sibiya is driving, from what you tell us. You've loaned him that vehicle. Do you know if Sergeant Nkosi was the one that was following him in all those footage or stills that was presented before the commission?
I can't confirm that. I wasn't there when the driving was taking place. I wasn't in the van, nor was I in the BMW. But what I do know is, from the times I've seen the BMW, there's been no Sergeant Nkosi driving that BMW. It's a different member that was there, and it's the same member that was in Cape Town in the ad hoc committee.
Yep. The more he tries to explain all this, the more the guy is entangled in all these criminalities, him and Sibiya, of course. Because if you are a law-abiding citizen, why having a car that is bulletproof? Why are you so close to the top cop, the top general in the land? Okay? Why are you so behind him, even in the court? You are just there. Why are you fighting his battles? Because clearly everyone can see that Sibiya is not innocent. But why are you defending him and why are you fighting his battles if you claim to be a law-abiding citizen? If you ask me, the guy is as guilty. The guy is involved in more stuff than what he tells us. What do you think? Let me have your comment below. Of course, if you're coming for the first time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.